Hello and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I'm Tanziba Naurin. In today's bulletin, we will present trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Biden announces US will send 31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine. McCarthy says he will block Chief Swalwell from Intel panel. Record 16.3 million seek health coverage through Obamacare. Attackers kill one, wound four during Oakland music video filming. Searchers find second hiker in area where Julian Sands missing. Tornado causes damage east of Houston, no injuries reported. Teacher shot by 6-year-old texted a dire warning to a loved one before she was wounded, source says. Doctor who molested patients convicted of federal sex counts. New lawsuits target state restrictions on abortion pills. Lloyd Morissette, who helped launch Sesame Street, dies. Man stabs passengers on German train, 2 dead, 5 injured. Pope Francis says homosexuality is a sin but not a crime and criticizes unjust anti-gay laws. BBC film on Indian PM Modi, 2002 riots draws government ire. Peru protesters tear-gassed after president calls for truce. Ship sinks between South Korea and Japan, 2 dead, 8 missing. Red Crescent says 8 dead, 58 missing after shipwreck off Libya. Malawi cholera outbreak death toll rises above 1,000. Paul tops Shelton at Australian Open, faces Djokovic next. Beltre Moyer eligible for Baseball Hall of Fame next year. And Schifrin adds to record total with 84th win in another GS. Now news in detail. President Joe Biden on Wednesday announced that the United States is sending 31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine in its war against Russia. The US will also provide the necessary training and supplies needed to operate and run these tanks, he said. The president said sending the tanks will enhance Ukraine's capacity to defend its territory and achieve its strategic objectives, because they are the most capable tanks in the world. That's what this is about, helping Ukraine defend and protect Ukrainian land. It is not an offensive threat to Russia. There is no offensive threat to Russia, the president said. During a background call previewing Biden's remarks, senior administration officials said the announcement is very much a continuation of our effort to provide Ukraine with the capabilities that they need to continue to better defend themselves. Senior administration officials also emphasized that 31 M1 Abrams tanks are the equivalent of one Ukrainian tank battalion. Additionally, the US will provide a training program to maintain and operate the tanks, as well as 8 M88 recovery vehicles to go along with the Abrams tanks that will provide recovery operations to make sure that the Ukrainians will be able to keep these Abrams up and running, a senior administration official said. The training will not take place in Ukraine, a senior administration official added. Speaker Kevin McCarthy reiterated Tuesday that he will block Democratic Representative Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell of California from serving on the House committee that oversees national intelligence, saying the decision was not based on political payback but because integrity matters, and they have failed in that place. In the previous Congress, Democrats booted Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia and Paul Gosar of Arizona from their committee assignments for incendiary commentary that they said incited potential violence against colleagues. Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, in a letter sent to McCarthy over the weekend, asked that Schiff and Swalwell be reappointed to the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, a prestigious panel with access to sensitive, classified information. There is no precedent or justification for rejecting them, Jeffries said. Unlike most committees, appointments to the intelligence panel are the prerogative of the Speaker, with input from the Minority Leader. McCarthy insisted that this is not similar to what the Democrats did. Those members will have other committees, but the Intel Committee is different. The Intel Committee's responsibility is the national security to America. A record of 16.3 million people sought health insurance through the Affordable Care Act this year, double the number covered when the marketplaces first launched nearly a decade ago. The Biden administration announced Wednesday more than 3 million new members joined the marketplace, also known as Obamacare, according to the Department of Health and Human Services. The government worked with non-profit groups and invested in program specialists who helped to sign people up in low-income, immigrant, Black and Latino communities to enroll more people, said Chiquita Brooks LaSure, administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. We made unprecedented investments to expand our enrollment organization footprint into nearly every county in the country and targeted the hardest to reach communities, she said. The boost in enrollment comes as the number of uninsured people is at an all-time low. Just 8% of those in the United States remain without coverage. A shooting during filming of a music video at an Oakland gas station that killed one person and wounded 4 others may have been gang-related, police said Tuesday. Gunfire erupted at around 6 p.m. Monday at the Valero station on MacArthur Boulevard, authorities said. One of those wounded was in a car that was struck by bullets. Police originally said there were 8 shooting victims, including the person who died. But in a Tuesday update, they said 3 people were injured in a car accident as they drove away from the scene. Bullets also struck a business, but nobody was hurt, police said. The shooting killed 18-year-old Mario Navarro. At least 19 shots were fired, according to a photo of the shell casings that appeared in the East Bay Times. About 40 to 50 people were there for the filming, police said. They didn't say who was making the video and whether the production had been legally permitted. Rescue personnel in California have found a 75-year-old hiker who was lost on the same snow-covered mountain where actor Julian Sands is missing. In the captured images, Jin Cheung of North Hollywood being loaded into an ambulance Tuesday afternoon. He had a leg injury and some weather-related injuries but was able to walk with assistance and was taken to a hospital, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department said. His condition was not immediately known. The Sheriff's Department launched the search after Cheung didn't return from a hike Sunday on 10,064-foot Mount Baldy. Cheung carpooled to the mountain with 2 others and made plans to meet them at the vehicle at 2 p.m., but Cheung did not return, authorities said. The Sheriff's Department said rescuers unsuccessfully continued searching for Sands on Mount Baldy over the weekend. A powerful storm system took aim at the Gulf Coast on Tuesday, spawning a tornado that downed utility poles and power lines, overturned vehicles, and ripped roofs of homes and businesses in communities east of Houston. There were no immediate reports of serious injuries. The National Weather Service had issued a tornado emergency for that area, warning that a large, extremely dangerous, and potentially deadly tornado was on the ground Tuesday afternoon and was headed toward Baytown, about 25 miles east of Houston. The warning expired as the system moved to the east, leaving behind cooler temperatures. Strong winds damaged commercial buildings, homes, and power lines in nearby Pasadena, a city southeast of Houston. Utility poles and power lines were downed, and several vehicles, including a trailer, were damaged or flipped over in a parking lot. Footage from Houston TV station KTRK showed several businesses suffered major damage, including the city's animal shelter. Nearby fences were laid over and shingles and sections of roofs were torn from homes, but there were no immediate reports of injuries. The American Red Cross said it was opening a shelter in Pasadena. The Virginia teacher who was shot by her 6-year-old student texted a loved one before she was wounded that the boy was armed and that school officials were failing to act, according to a source close to the situation. The source on Tuesday said Abigail Zwerner sent the text about an hour before she was shot on January 6, saying that the student said he had a gun in his backpack, and administrators at Rich Neck Elementary School in Newport News weren't helping. The text showed her frustration, said the source. She was frustrated because she was trying to get help with this child, for this child, and then when she needed help, no one was coming. When asked about Joanna's text message and previous safety concerns from teachers and staff, Newport News Public Schools spokesperson Michelle Price said anything that has been reported to our school leadership team in regards to concerns at Rich Neck from teachers and staff members is part of the investigation. It's being thoroughly investigated. On Wednesday morning, Zwerner's attorney Diane Toscano held a news conference and said 3 teachers went to the school administration about the boy's behavior on January 6 and that he was believed to have had a gun on campus. A gynecologist accused of molesting hundreds of patients during a decades-long career was convicted of federal sex crime charges Tuesday in a victory for accusers who were outraged when an initial state prosecution resulted in no jail time. Robert Hayden, 64-year-old of Englewood, New Jersey, was convicted after less than a day of deliberations at a 2-week trial in which 9 former patients described how he abused them sexually during examinations when they were most vulnerable. Outside the courthouse after the verdict, women who were among Hayden's victims expressed relief at his conviction and said they were eager to see him start serving time. "This is such a victory for all of us," said Evelyn Young, whose husband, Andrew Young, ran unsuccessfully as a Democrat for president in 2020 and for New York City mayor in 2022. She said Hayden sexually assaulted her years ago when she was 7 months pregnant. Hayden, who is subject to electronic monitoring and was free on $1 million bail, declined to comment as he left the courthouse. Supporters of abortion rights filed separate lawsuits Wednesday challenging 2 states' abortion pill restrictions, the opening salvo in what's expected to be a protracted legal battle over access to the medications. The lawsuits argue that limits on the drugs in North Carolina and West Virginia run afoul of the Federal Authority of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, which has approved the abortion pill as a safe and effective method for ending pregnancy. The cases were brought by a North Carolina physician who prescribes the pill, mifepristone and GenBioPro, which makes a generic version of the drug, and sued in West Virginia. While the lawsuits target specific state laws, they represent key legal tests that could determine access to abortion for millions of women. The litigation turns on a long-standing legal principle that federal law, including FDA decisions, preempt state laws. Indeed, few states have ever tried to fully ban an FDA-approved drug because of past rulings in the agency's favor. But with the fall of Roe v. Wade, there is little precedent for the current legal patchwork of laws governing abortion. Lloyd Morissette, the co-creator of the beloved children's education TV series Sesame Street, which uses empathy and fuzzy monsters like Abby Cadabby, Elmo and Cookie Monster to charm and teach generations around the world, has died. He was 93. Morissette's death was announced Tuesday by Sesame Workshop, the non-profit he helped establish under the name the Children's Television Workshop. No cause of death was given in a statement. Sesame Workshop hailed Morissette as a wise, thoughtful, and above all kind leader who was constantly thinking about new ways to educate. Morissette and John Gans Cooney worked with Harvard University developmental psychologist Gerald Lesser to build the show's unique approach to teaching that now reaches 120 million children. Legendary puppeteer Jim Henson supplied the creatures. Now it's time for global updates. A man fatally stabbed 2 people and injured 5 others on a train in northern Germany on Wednesday before being arrested, police said. Germany's federal police force said the man used a knife to attack several passengers shortly before a regional train traveling from Kiel to Hamburg arrived at the Brugstedt station. Police spokesman Jürgen Henningsen said 2 of the stabbed people died after the attack. The Interior Minister of Schleswig-Holstein State, Sabine Sutterlin-Wag, said the attack happened at about 3 p.m. local time. Regional police and the federal police were on the scene, and the prosecutor's office was investigating the attack, India reported. The train station in Brugstedt was closed for several hours. Police did not provide any information on the suspect's identity and said his possible motives were under investigation. Pope Francis criticized laws that criminalize homosexuality as unjust, saying God loves all his children just as they are, and called on Catholic bishops who support the laws to welcome LGBTQ people into the church. Being homosexual isn't a crime, Francis said during an interview Tuesday. Francis acknowledged that Catholic bishops in some parts of the world support laws that criminalize homosexuality or discriminate against the LGBTQ community, and he himself referred to the issue in terms of sin. But he attributed such attitudes to cultural backgrounds and said bishops in particular need to undergo a process of change to recognize the dignity of everyone. These bishops have to have a process of conversion, he said, adding that they should apply tenderness, please, as God has for each one of us. Some 67 countries or jurisdictions worldwide criminalize consensual same-sex sexual activity, 11 of which can or do impose the death penalty, according to the Human Dignity Trust, which works to end such laws. Experts say even where the laws are not enforced, they contribute to harassment, stigmatization, and violence against LGBTQ people. Days after India blocked a BBC documentary that examines Prime Minister Narendra Modi's role during 2002 anti-Muslim riots and banned people from sharing it online, authorities are scrambling to halt screenings of the program at colleges and universities and restrict clips of it on social media, a move that has been decried by critics as an assault on press freedom. Tensions escalated in the capital, New Delhi, on Wednesday at Jamia Millia University, where a student group said it planned to screen the banned documentary, prompting dozens of police equipped with tear gas and riot gear to gather outside campus gates. Police, some in plain clothes, scuffled with protesting students and detained at least half a dozen, who were taken away in a van. Jawaharlal Nehru University in the capital cut off power and the internet on its campus on Tuesday before the documentary was scheduled to be screened by a students' union. Authorities said it would disturb peace on campus, but students nonetheless watched the documentary on their laptops and mobile phones after sharing it on messaging services such as Telegram and WhatsApp. The The documentary has caused a storm at other Indian universities too. The two-part documentary, India, the Modi Question, has not been broadcast in India by the BBC, but India's federal government blocked it over the weekend and banned people from sharing clips on social media, citing emergency powers under its information technology laws. Twitter and YouTube complied with the request and removed many links to the documentary. The first part of the program, released last week by the BBC for its UK audiences, revives the most controversial episode of Modi's political career when he was the Chief Minister of Western Gujarat state in 2002. It focuses on anti-Muslim riots in which more than 1,000 people were killed. Thousands of protesters took to the streets of Peru's capital and were met with volleys of tear gas and pellets amid clashes with security forces just hours after President Dina Boluarte called for a truce in almost 2 months of protest. The anti-government protest Tuesday was the largest and most violent since last Thursday, when large groups of people, many from remote Andean regions, descended on the capital to demand Boluarte's resignation, immediate elections, and the dissolution of Congress. "We can't have a truce when she doesn't tell the truth," Blanca Espana Mesa, 48-year-old, said of Peru's president. Even though her eyes were watering from the tear gas, Espana Mesa said she was happy because a lot of people came today. "It's as if people have woken up." Before last week, most of the large anti-government protests that followed the ouster of President Pedro Castillo took place in remote regions of Peru, largely in the country's south, exposing deep division between residents of the capital and the long-neglected countryside. Ships searching in wind-whipped waters between South Korea and Japan have picked up at least 14 of the 22 crew members from a cargo vessel that sank early Wednesday, killing at least 2, officials said. South Korean officials said 9 of those rescued remain unconscious, but they did not immediately confirm any deaths. 10 crew members were later airlifted to Nagasaki in southern Japan for treatment, but 2 of them were confirmed dead on arrival, Japanese officials said. South Korean and Japanese Coast Guard vessels and aircraft, as well as 2 commercial cargo ships, were continuing to search for the 8 missing crew members, but the efforts were being slowed by strong winds and waves, South Korean officials said. The Japanese Coast Guard confirmed the rescue of at least 13 crew members and said 5 of them, all Chinese nationals, were still alive. A boat carrying Europe-bound migrants capsized off Libya, killing at least 8 people, while 58 others were still missing, the country's Red Crescent said Wednesday. Tawfiq al-Shukri, spokesman for the Libyan Red Crescent, said the shipwreck took place Tuesday off the Mediterranean town of Guerabuli, around 60 kilometers east of the capital of Tripoli. The boat was carrying at least 150 migrants, of whom 84 survived and were taken to government-run detention centers for migrants, he said. Al-Shukri said the dead who were recovered were all men. He shared images purporting to show workers in Red Crescent uniforms packing black body bags with the Mediterranean Sea in the background. Malawi's cholera outbreak has claimed more than 1,000 lives, according to the country's health minister, who warned that some cultural beliefs and hostility toward health workers were slowing efforts to curb infections. Cholera had killed 1,002 people as of Tuesday, while 1,115 people were hospitalized from the outbreak that started in March 2022. Minister of Health Kumbije Kandodo Chiponda said, "It's the country's worst outbreak of the waterborne illness in 2 decades. The country of 20 million people recorded 12 deaths from 626 new cases in 24 hours, she said. Frustration and suspicion over the rising cases resulted in weekend violence. Angry villagers beat up health workers and damaged a facility at the Nandumbo Health Center in the southern region's Balaka district. Residents accused health workers of denying them an opportunity to conduct dignified burials. They forced some health workers to vacate the facility, stoned a cholera isolation ward, and forced the discharge of 22 cholera patients." Now it's time for business news. New York stock close price is 15,889.27. The NYSE composite is increased by 21.05 points or 0.13%. Tokyo stock close price is 27,395.01. The Nikkei 225 index is increased by 95.82 points or 0.35%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,264.8138. The Shanghai Composite Index is increased by 24.53 points or 0.76%. Hong Kong stock close price is 22,044.65. The Hang Seng Index is increased by 393.67 points or 1.82%. Bombay stock close price is 60,205.06. The Sensex index is decreased by 773.69 points or 1.27%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. Tommy Paul received a lot less attention than his younger, less experienced opponent Ben Shelton, heading into their All-American quarterfinal at the Australian Open. Perhaps that was a product of the fascination with the out-of-nowhere Shelton, just 20 and less than a year after winning an NCAA title for the University of Florida. He was traveling outside of the United States for the first time and participating in his second Grand Slam tournament. Paul's story is a pretty good one too, and it is the one that will keep going at Melbourne Park. The 25-year-old was a star in the juniors and now is making good on that promise in the pros, using a 7-6, 6-3, 5-7, 6-4 victory over Shelton to reach his first Grand Slam semi-final in his 14th appearance at a major. Scott Rowland is headed to the Hall of Fame next year. Make way for another star third baseman. Adrian Beltre highlights the first-time eligibles for 2024, while Rowland's election Tuesday kept an impressive 6-year rise in his vote total. Beltre has a good chance to go in on the first ballot. Although he was never an MVP, he finished his career with 3,166 hits, 477 home runs, and 5 Gold Gloves, remaining productive all the way through his final season at age 39. Joe Moyer, Chase Utley, David Reed, Jose Bautista, and Matt Holliday are also expected to make their debuts on the ballot next year. Moyer is the only catcher to win 3 batting titles and was the American League MVP in 2009. Mikaela Shiffrin didn't wait long to add to her record total of World Cup wins, a day after securing record victory number 83. Shiffrin added her 84th win on Wednesday in another giant slalom on the same course, and like how she did it a day earlier, Shiffrin led from start to finish, dominating the first run down the steep Eta course and then adding to her advantage in the second run. Shiffrin finished a massive 0.82 seconds ahead of two-time Olympic silver medalist Ragnhild Moinkel and 1.19 ahead of Olympic champion Sarah Hector. When Shiffrin reached the finish after her second run, she collapsed to the snow in apparent exertion, with her skis still attached to her boots, before Moinkel and Hector came over to congratulate her and help her up. While Tuesday's win moved Shiffrin ahead of the previous women's mark of 82 victories held by former American teammate Lindsey Vonn, Wednesday's victory moved her within 2 of the overall record between men and women of 86 wins held by Ingemar Stenmark. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest updates. Millennium TV US and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV, and also in all European countries and Australia available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago Media Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.